The Galactic Council was the most powerful assembly in the known universe. For countless cycles, it had maintained order, settling disputes between thousands of civilizations that stretched across millions of star systems. In its massive chamber, alien representatives with forms and shapes beyond human imagination discussed trade, exploration, and security. But today, the usual calm was pierced by a new urgency. A quiet, dangerous whisper that echoed through the council halls. Earth. Earth was small, barely noticed in the vast galactic map. Its people were young and primitive, from the perspective of the galaxy's older species. Most considered humans weak, slow, and unorganized. They had no interstellar fleets, no experience with other intelligent civilizations, and they were still trapped on a single planet. Yet rumors had reached the council that Earth was changing. Humans were building technologies that could reach the stars. Satellites and probes had begun mapping parts of the galaxy, and their scientists had started detecting signals that might have come from other civilizations. The Voran Empire, one of the council's dominant powers, saw this as a threat. In a private chamber lit with soft, pulsating lights, Voran representatives spoke in low tones. Their many eyes focused on a large holographic display of the solar system. "We cannot wait," said Voran Commander Thrax. His voice was like grinding stone, deep and firm. "The humans are growing too fast. If we allow them to continue, they could become dangerous. We must act before it is too late." Another alien, a slender crystalline being from the Sindari cluster, tilted its translucent head. "Dangerous? They are still weak. Their planet is unprotected, their fleets non-existent. Why rush to war?" Commander Thrax's many limbs gestured sharply. "Weak, maybe, but intelligence is unpredictable. Their curiosity alone could make them a threat. It is the unpredictability of humans that frightens me. We see chaos in their behavior and think it is harmless, but chaos can become a weapon," the council murmured. Some species shared Thrax's concern. Others believed humans were nothing more than a small, isolated species that would eventually fall into insignificance. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadow of the council's decisions, the first invasion plans were quietly set in motion. Fleets began to gather at the outer edge of the solar system. Weapons and strategies were prepared in secrecy. No human knew that they were being watched, or that their homeworld was about to become the target of a galaxy-wide conspiracy. Back on Earth, the human race remained largely unaware. Cities bustled with life, people worked and laughed, and the planet's nations argued about mundane issues. Yet among the scientists and engineers who monitored space, a subtle unease began to grow. Their satellites had detected signals, strange movements, and anomalies in the far reaches of their solar system. Something was approaching, something alien. Dr. Amina Patel, a leading scientist in Earth's Deep Space Observation Program, stared at her screen. Her brow furrowed as she analyzed a faint series of signals. They were unlike anything humans had produced or encountered before. "These signals are structured," she murmured to her assistant Raj. "They aren't random. Someone or something is observing us." Raj leaned closer. "You think it's intelligent?" Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "It must be. Nothing natural would arrange signals this way. And it's not just one. There are several probes moving in patterns that suggest coordination." News of her discovery reached higher authorities quietly. Earth's governments, usually divided and slow to act, began to understand the gravity of the situation. For the first time in history, the planet faced a possible threat from the stars. Not a natural disaster, not an asteroid, not a virus, but something intelligent and organized, far beyond their current understanding. At the same time, in the council chamber light years away, the debate continued. Some representatives scoffed at the idea of Earth as a threat. They had seen primitive worlds before, worlds that reached for the stars only to collapse under their own limitations. But Commander Thrax's persistence swayed many. "Underestimate them and you will regret it," he warned. "Humanity is unpredictable. They are chaotic, yes, but chaos in the hands of intelligence is power. We have the opportunity to act first, or we risk facing something we cannot control." The council finally voted in secret. A small but determined group agreed to move forward. The invasion would happen, but in stages, quietly and without warning. Fleets would assemble, strategies would be tested, and Earth would be taken before humans could react. Back on Earth, the first hint of impending danger reached the public only as a curiosity. Strange patterns in space were reported by observatories, but most people dismissed them as anomalies, minor glitches, or signals from distant stars. Only the few scientists who had access to classified networks knew the truth. Humans were about to become the focus of an alien attention they could hardly imagine. Even as Earth went about its daily life, preparations began. The Earth Unity Program, a secret coalition of scientists, military leaders, and intelligence experts, started quietly mapping the skies, analyzing threats, and considering strategies. They did not yet know who or what was approaching, but the instinct to protect their world united them in ways politics had never managed. On a quiet night in New York City, Dr. Patel watched the sky through a telescope. Millions of lights twinkled, indifferent to human life below. Yet among those stars she sensed a presence, something calculating, something watching. She shivered, not from fear but from awareness. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Voran fleets moved closer to Earth, unaware that their plans were being silently observed by humans' growing network of satellites and probes. The first whispers of humanity's determination were forming in secret. Commander Thrax studied the solar map one last time before leaving the council chamber. "They will be easy to underestimate," he said. "And yet I feel curiosity. How will such a small, primitive species respond when faced with a true test?" No one else in the chamber shared his unease. For most humans were nothing more than a minor curiosity, a species too small to matter. But Thrax had seen enough civilizations rise and fall to understand one thing: intelligence, creativity, and unpredictability were forces no one should ignore. Back on Earth, scientists began to prepare for the unknown. Governments started coordinating emergency communications and exploring ways to unify defenses. Ordinary people went about their lives, unaware of the silent storm approaching from the stars. Yet even in this early stage, something remarkable was already forming. Humans were beginning to come together, slowly but surely, driven not by fear but by awareness, curiosity, and the instinct to survive. The Council believed they were planning a simple, quiet conquest. They had no idea that their intended prey, humans, were already quietly watching, calculating, and preparing. In the shadow of the galaxy, the first chapter of humanity's true story was beginning. A story of courage, creativity, and resilience. A story that would soon shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council's assumptions. And so, as fleets assembled and secret plans moved into motion, Earth spun silently in space, unaware yet not defenseless. Whispers of invasion had begun. But humanity's response, though still in its earliest form, would soon make itself known in ways the galaxy could never imagine. The stars above Earth twinkled with distant light. But in those lights and in the hearts of humans who looked up at them, a quiet defiance was already taking shape. The Council believed humans were fragile and weak. They could not have been more wrong. The news of strange signals and unusual patterns in space spread quietly through Earth's top scientific networks. For most of humanity, life went on as usual. Children played in parks, workers commuted through busy cities, and leaders argued over ordinary matters. But behind closed doors, a small group of humans began to understand the gravity of what was approaching. Dr. Amina Patel, the astrophysicist who first noticed the signals, now led a coalition of experts from multiple nations. The group had no official name at first, only a shared goal: to understand and prepare for the unknown threat coming from beyond their skies. "Raj, I want all our satellites redirected," Dr. Patel said in the secure operations room of the Global Space Monitoring Center. Her voice was calm but determined. "We need every eye in the sky watching, listening, and analyzing. If they are out there, we need to know their movements before they know ours." Raj nodded. "I'll coordinate with all the international observatories. We'll have a complete orbital map within days." It was unprecedented. Nations that often argued over minor territorial disputes suddenly shared information freely. Military bases, research centers, and space agencies worked side by side. Communications experts, cybersecurity specialists, and engineers collaborated in a way humanity had never seen before. In Washington, D.C., the leaders of the world held an emergency summit. The room was tense. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals from all over Earth debated how to respond. For the first time in history, the divisions of politics seemed meaningless in the face of a common and unknown threat. "We have no idea who or what is out there," one leader admitted. "But ignoring the signs could be catastrophic." A general from a coalition of space forces leaned forward. "We may not have fleets like other civilizations, but we have ingenuity. We have creativity. We have people who can think in ways they cannot predict. That is our advantage." The room fell silent. The statement was simple, but it captured something that many had not considered. Humans had a unique strength that was more than technology. It was unity and adaptability. In the following weeks, Earth's defenses began to take shape, not with weapons alone, but with strategies designed to use humans' greatest strengths: intelligence, unpredictability, and creativity. Scientists worked with engineers to create surveillance systems that could detect even the smallest probe in deep space. Communication experts built networks capable of encrypting and intercepting messages from unknown sources. Dr. Patel oversaw a project that integrated artificial intelligence with human decision-making. "Machines can calculate patterns faster than us," she explained, "but humans can think outside the patterns. That combination, intuition plus calculation, will be our edge." Meanwhile, in Europe and Asia, engineers developed rapid response satellites capable of small maneuvers in orbit. These satellites were equipped not with destructive weapons, but with electronic systems to confuse or disable potential alien probes. The goal was clear: survive long enough to understand the threat and respond intelligently. Even in everyday life, humans began to notice subtle changes. People looked to the skies more often. Amateur astronomers tracked satellites and meteors with a renewed interest. Children asked questions about planets, stars, and the possibilities of life beyond Earth. Curiosity became a quiet form of preparation. And then came the first direct evidence that humans were being watched. A strange probe, small and silent, was detected near the edge of the asteroid belt. It did not move like natural objects, nor did it respond to light or radio waves in ways known to Earth. But it left a clear trail, patterns of movement that suggested observation. Dr. Patel and her team studied the probe for days. Every attempt to communicate with it failed. Yet the probe never approached Earth's surface, only its satellites and observatories. It was as if it were learning, studying, waiting. "We are being assessed," Dr. Patel said one evening as she reviewed the data. "They are not here to destroy yet. They are trying to understand us. They want to know if we are dangerous or perhaps if we are worth ignoring." Her words carried a mixture of fear and pride. Humanity was small, isolated, and primitive by galactic standards. Yet they were aware, alert, and united in ways no alien could predict. In the meantime, news of Earth's rapid preparations began to spread beyond the planet. Somehow, fragments of human activity, encrypted patterns, and unusual energy signatures reached distant parts of space. The Galactic Council, which had assumed humans were weak and isolated, began to notice unexpected anomalies. Commander Thrax observed the signals with a mixture of frustration and curiosity. "These humans, they are not helpless," he muttered. "Even without fleets, they are acting. They are preparing, and they are clever enough to hide much of it from us." The Council species had always relied on predictable behavior. Most civilizations fell in line when threatened or cowered under pressure. Humans were different. Every move they made suggested creativity, adaptability, and collaboration. Thrax realized that the more the Council underestimated Earth, the more dangerous humans became. Back on Earth, ordinary people remained largely unaware of the events unfolding in space. Life continued with its normal rhythms: school, work, markets, festivals, but a sense of quiet purpose had begun to take root among those involved in defense efforts. Even volunteers without access to classified information contributed. Amateur programmers shared ideas for secure networks. Engineers built devices to track satellites. Scientists analyzed patterns in ways previously unimagined. For the first time, humanity was united not by fear or ideology, but by a shared understanding of a common challenge beyond their world. In a hidden command center beneath the Nevada desert, a team of engineers and strategists developed the Earth Unity Protocol, a framework to combine intelligence, surveillance, and communication with rapid human decision-making. Every action taken was small, careful and deliberate, but collectively, it formed a network of resilience unlike anything the Council had anticipated. Raj, monitoring live feeds from satellites, spoke softly to Dr. Patel. "It's almost like they expect us to fail. But every move we make, every pattern we analyze, we are learning faster than they know. They may think humans are simple, but intelligence is not always obvious. Dr. Patel nodded, eyes fixed on the streams of data. Exactly. They see chaos in our world, but chaos can be organized, and it is in that organization, hidden in plain sight, that humans will show their strength. Weeks passed and more signals appeared in orbit, each carefully observed and analyzed. Human strategies evolved rapidly. Teams learned to anticipate patterns, predict movements, and create countermeasures that were flexible and adaptable. For the first time, humans truly understood that survival depended not on a single technology or weapon, but on the collective intelligence, courage, and unity of the species. Even as Earth prepared, the Council believed they were acting first. Fleets still gathered in silence, assuming humans were unaware. But the humans were ready in ways the Council could not imagine. They had no giant warships, no lasers spanning continents, but they had creativity, adaptability, and the will to survive together. That was something no alien species had fully comprehended. Late one night, Dr. Patel looked up at the sky. Millions of stars sparkled in patterns that had fascinated humans for centuries. But tonight she saw something new, possibility and challenge. Humans were no longer simply observers of the universe, they were participants. And soon they would prove that the Council's assumptions about weakness and fragility were dangerously wrong. Across the globe, ordinary people slept unaware, but extraordinary minds worked tirelessly. Satellites adjusted, networks encrypted, and algorithms ran tirelessly. Humanity had begun to stand together, quietly, calmly, and with determination. Somewhere in the vast reaches of space, Commander Thrax received another report. One of his probes had been intercepted. Not destroyed, just intercepted and analyzed. They learn quickly, he muttered. His eyes narrowed. And they do so with unity, with coordination. This is unexpected. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. The humans were unpredictable, clever, and resourceful. Perhaps they were more dangerous than he had imagined. On Earth, preparations continued. Each small step, an encrypted network, a coordinated observation, a rapid response drill, was part of a larger picture. Humans were quietly organizing themselves for the first contact they did not ask for, the challenge they did not invite, and the danger they did not fully understand but were determined to meet. By the end of the month, the Earth Unity program had created a network that spanned the globe. Satellites, ground stations, and research teams worked together as one mind, constantly learning, adapting, and anticipating. Humans were ready, not yet fully aware of the full scale of the threat, but prepared in spirit and ingenuity. And somewhere in the galaxy, the whispers about Earth grew louder. The Council, once certain of humanity's weakness, began to doubt. Perhaps these small, primitive humans were not as harmless as they had thought. Unseen, the first step of humanity's story had begun, a story of unity, preparation, and quiet defiance against the unknown. The stars above seemed unchanged, but Earth was no longer the same. Its people were beginning to understand that when the galaxy underestimates humanity, it underestimates something far strong. The humans had been preparing quietly but deliberately. They did not rush into panic, and they did not assume that the Council would act immediately. Instead, they used their greatest strength: intelligence, observation, and the ability to think in ways no one expected. In the heart of the Global Space Monitoring Center, Dr. Amina Patel and her team watched the approaching fleet signals carefully. They had identified the general paths of alien vessels, but none had dared to enter Earth's immediate orbit. That was a relief, but also a warning. Whoever or whatever these aliens were, they were calculating, precise, and patient. Raj, her assistant, adjusted one of the satellite feeds. They're moving closer, he said. But their patterns are unusual, they are cautious. It's almost as if they're waiting for us to make the first move. Dr. Patel leaned forward, her mind racing. Then let's make the first move, but not with weapons. Let's use words. Intelligence, strategy. Let's show them that humans are not prey to be taken, but minds to be reckoned with. The plan was daring. A message would be sent across the vast distance of space directly to the Galactic Council, using carefully encrypted signals that could not be traced easily or tampered with. It would be the first time humans had deliberately reached out to an alien authority of such power. Weeks of preparation followed. Engineers worked around the clock to encode data that could survive light years of space transmission. Linguists studied ways to communicate using logic and mathematics. the universal languages they hoped any intelligent species could understand. Psychologists helped craft the tone of the message, ensuring it was firm, confident, but not hostile. Finally, the moment came. The message carrying humanity's voice and warning was sent into the stars. It contained a clear declaration. Humans were aware of the approaching fleets, they were prepared, and they would not be taken lightly. The message included proofs, satellite data, movements of probes, and even strategic simulations showing that humans were learning faster than anyone expected. Across the galaxy, the council chambers were quiet when the transmission arrived. Holographic displays flickered, translating the strange patterns into a format that council members could understand. Every representative, whether scaled, crystalline, or multi-limbed, stopped and stared. A human figure appeared on the screens, calm, composed, and speaking in a tone that was both formal and resolute. The figure identified themselves as a representative of Earth, not a single nation but the unified planet. "Galactic Council," the human began. "We are aware of the plans you have made. We know that some among you intend to invade our world. Before you proceed, understand this. If you come to Earth, you will not find a simple species. You will find resistance. You will find minds that think differently, act unpredictably, and unite when faced with danger. You may underestimate us, but that will be your first mistake." The council members murmured among themselves. Many could not believe that a species so young and primitive could speak with such clarity and confidence. Commander Thrax felt a chill along his many limbs. He had expected fear, confusion, or perhaps silence, but not this. One council member, a glowing orb from the planet Cylon, spoke first. "This is bold. They threaten us without firing a weapon. Do they understand what they face?" Another representative, tall and covered in flowing crystalline tendrils, tilted their head. "They may understand more than we realize. Their logic is precise. Their communication is structured. They may have more intelligence than we assumed." The human continued, showing data streams and simulations of hypothetical engagements. "You may have fleets, weapons, and experience," the representative said. "But you lack one thing we have in abundance: adaptability and unity. We will not fight blindly. We will study, learn, and act with strategy. Any attempt to take us by surprise will fail. That is a promise." The council grew uneasy. Many species had never faced a species so small, yet so confident. Most civilizations they ruled or sought to conquer had not dared to speak to them in this way. It was unheard of. Commander Thrax leaned closer to the display. "They know about our fleets," he whispered. "They've studied our technology, our strategies. They've anticipated us, and they are calm and prepared." "How is this possible?" The human continued calmly and deliberately, outlining humanity's preparations. Probes that had been observed were tracked, studied, and countered without destruction. Communication networks had intercepted alien signals and decoded patterns of fleet movement. Every precaution had been taken, every scenario considered. "The galaxy may see us as weak," the human said, "but you will find that humans are resilient. You will find that our strength is not only in technology but in our courage, our creativity, and our will to survive. If you act against us, you do so knowing that you face a species willing to defend its home with intelligence and determination. We do not seek war, but we do not fear it either." Silence fell across the council chambers. The words had been heard, and the evidence displayed could not be ignored. Even those who had laughed at Earth's primitiveness felt unease. For the first time, they faced the possibility that their assumptions about weakness were dangerously wrong. One of the council's historians, an ancient being with a mind that spanned centuries, whispered to a colleague, "I have seen countless civilizations fall. I have never seen a species so young display such confidence and preparation. Perhaps they are not what we thought." Commander Thrax's many limbs flexed with tension. He had underestimated humans. They were not chaotic fools as he had assumed. Their coordination, preparation, and intelligence were remarkable, especially given their lack of fleets and experience in interstellar politics. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Patel and her team monitored the reception of their message. Signals were being analyzed for responses. They had expected silence, confusion, or perhaps dismissal, but now they waited for the galaxy to acknowledge that humans were not to be underestimated. Days passed. Initially, there was no direct response, only indirect signals. Communications between Council species grew cautious. Some fleets paused, unsure of how to proceed. Reports came in. Alien ships changed course, probes withdrew slightly from Earth's orbit, and distant observers noted that the Council was divided. On Earth, the team celebrated quietly. Their message had worked. They had not used weapons, not fired a shot, yet they had forced the galaxy to reconsider. Humans had turned the tables without violence, relying solely on intelligence, observation, and confidence. Raj turned to Dr. Patel, a rare smile on his face. "They are talking about us," he said. "Even the Council fleets are hesitating. We've made them pause." Dr. Patel nodded, her eyes focused on the streams of data. "This is just the beginning. They have heard us, but they are still deciding what to do. The next step is to continue observing, continue learning, and continue preparing. They cannot predict how humans will respond, and that unpredictability is our greatest weapon." Back in the Council chambers, whispers grew louder. Some members demanded immediate action, arguing that humans were bluffing and that hesitation was dangerous. Others suggested restraint, arguing that the humans' intelligence and courage made them unpredictable, and that an attack could awaken a species far stronger than anticipated. Commander Thrax remained silent, his mind racing. "They are small, yes," he muttered to himself, "but they are clever. Their defiance is not mere bravado, it is preparation. And preparation combined with unity is far more dangerous than raw power. We must reconsider our plans." For the first time in Council history, the young and underestimated species had forced the galaxy to hesitate. Humanity's message had done more than inform. It had reshaped perceptions, challenged assumptions, and planted doubt among the most powerful species in the known universe. On Earth, life continued with a sense of quiet vigilance. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the tension they had created in the galaxy. But behind the scenes, humans were already preparing the next steps. Surveillance continued, algorithms evolved, and strategies were refined. They had learned a critical lesson. Courage and intelligence, when combined, could achieve more than weapons alone. And the galaxy, for the first time, had begun to see that humans were neither simple nor weak. The stars above seemed peaceful, but humanity's boldness had echoed across light years. The Council could no longer act with certainty. They could not underestimate Earth again, and somewhere, deep within the Council chambers, Commander Thrax whispered almost to himself, "They are unpredictable, yes. But more than that, they are remarkable." Thus the first direct contact had been made, not through war but through intelligence, courage, and the human will to be heard. The galaxy would never view Earth the same way again. The Galactic Council had always operated on consensus. Decisions were rarely made by force alone. Each species' voice carried weight, and disagreements were settled through debate, discussion, and careful calculation. But after humanity's bold message, the Council's halls were filled not with calm deliberation but with tension, fear, and uncertainty. Commander Thrax paced along the edge of the chamber, his multiple limbs brushing the polished floor. The human's message had shaken him more than he cared to admit. They had anticipated his fleets, studied his strategies, and communicated with confidence and clarity that rivaled the oldest species in the Council. "They are young," one crystalline representative said, voice trembling. "They are primitive, but their intelligence, it is unlike anything I have seen. They may be dangerous beyond expectation." Another from the Sindari cluster hissed through its crystal-like mandibles. "Dangerous? They are small, insignificant. How can such a fragile species command such attention?" Thrax stopped pacing and turned to them, his many eyes flashing. "That is exactly the mistake most of you would make. Small does not mean weak. Young does not mean unprepared. You have seen their message. You have seen the data they sent. They're organized, clever, and united. If we attack, we will face consequences we cannot predict," the Council murmured. Some members tried to dismiss the humans' efforts as simple bluster, but evidence was difficult to ignore. Reports from probes, satellites, and intercepted communications suggested that humanity had been quietly monitoring the Council's fleets for weeks. They were already prepared for an invasion even though none had occurred. A historian from the planet Cytherian spoke, voice deep and deliberate. "I have witnessed thousands of civilizations rise and fall. Usually intelligence and caution follow physical power. Humans are the opposite. They are weak by most measures, Yet their intelligence and unity give them a power that cannot be ignored. We must reconsider our plans. The room erupted in debate. Some council members demanded immediate action, arguing that hesitation would embolden humans and allow them to grow stronger. Others urged caution, warning that underestimating a species capable of learning and adapting so quickly could be catastrophic. Commander Thrax listened, feeling the council's confidence waver. For the first time, doubt crept into the minds of the strongest species. The humans had turned a planned invasion into a challenge that required careful consideration rather than brute force. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity continued its preparations. Dr. Amina Patel and her team were aware of the Council's hesitation, even if the world at large remained ignorant. They had learned to intercept and decode distant signals, understanding just enough of the Council's deliberations to anticipate their next moves. Raj pointed to a screen displaying the Council's fleet patterns. "They're pausing," he said. "Ships are holding positions, waiting. They're not attacking because they don't know what we will do next." Dr. Patel nodded. "Good, let them hesitate. Every moment we gain is a moment to strengthen our networks, our defenses, and our understanding. They are calculating, yes, but humans are unpredictable. That is our advantage." Across the galaxy, the debate within the Council intensified. Some members argued that humans were bluffing. They believed that with enough pressure, Earth would submit. After all, humans had no fleets capable of interstellar combat. They had no experience in galactic diplomacy. How could such a species pose a real threat? But others reminded the Council of the humans' message. They had anticipated attacks, monitored fleets, and prepared countermeasures that were subtle, precise, and effective. They had not threatened war. They had demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and the capacity to adapt. A representative from the planet Clivax slammed a limb against the Council table. "We cannot allow a single planet to dictate terms to the galaxy. They are only humans, primitive, unarmed, insignificant." Thrax's eyes narrowed. "Do not let arrogance blind you. They are already dictating terms, not through weapons, but through intelligence. By preparing, by uniting, they have forced the Council to pause. They are small, yes, but clever. And cleverness can defeat raw power if underestimated." Debate raged for days. Members of the Council split into factions, one advocating for immediate invasion, confident that humans could be overpowered, another urging restraint, emphasizing the unpredictability of a species that had already demonstrated strategic thinking and unity. Reports continued to arrive from Council scouts and probes. Several had been intercepted by humans, analyzed, and quietly countered. None were destroyed, yet none had reached Earth's surface. The humans' ability to monitor, learn, and respond without detection frustrated even the most seasoned Council members. The historian from Cytherian spoke again. "I have studied the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations. Most fall because they underestimate a weaker species. Humans are already showing signs of resilience, intelligence, and unity. If we attack blindly, we risk awakening a force far stronger than we expect." Thrax finally addressed the Council. "We have a choice. We can proceed with the invasion and risk creating a species that is unpredictable, clever, and united, or we can pause, observe, and attempt communication. We may yet gain allies, insight, or understanding without risking open conflict." Some members scoffed at the idea of negotiation. "They are weak." "Communication is unnecessary. Conquest is simple. Strike before they can respond," but Thrax shook his head. "You think conquest is simple? That is exactly the mistake we cannot afford. Humans do not respond like other civilizations. They unite under pressure, learn quickly, and act with strategy. An attack may awaken a power we cannot contain. Consider what their message has already done. It forced hesitation in the Council. What more might they do if provoked?" Even the skeptics had to admit his point. Hesitation spread like a ripple across the Council chambers. Fleets held their positions. Probes paused near the asteroid belt. Every species sensed the uncertainty that humans had created without firing a single shot. Back on Earth, Dr. Patel and her team watched the data with growing pride. "They are dividing," she said. "The Council is no longer unified. They are arguing among themselves. Our message worked. We have disrupted their plans without a single conflict. And now, we continue to observe, learn, and prepare." Raj smiled. "They've never encountered a species like this before. And they don't know how to handle it." The Council's factions grew more pronounced. Some argued that humans should be monitored but left alone for now. Others insisted on further tests to gauge Earth's capabilities. Commander Thrax found himself mediating between extremes, realizing that patience and observation might be more powerful than any fleet. Meanwhile, humans quietly advanced their preparations. New communication networks were established, capable of intercepting signals across light years. Satellites were equipped with sensors to detect alien probes. Algorithms were refined to predict fleet movements. Humanity was building not weapons for war, but systems for survival, observation, and understanding. For the first time, humans were no longer simply passive observers. They were participants in a galactic dialogue, even if the other side did not yet fully recognize it. Their actions had shifted the balance of perception, from weak and primitive to clever, resilient, and unpredictable. In the council chambers, the divisions were clear. One group argued for aggression, insisting that hesitation was weakness. Another group urged caution, emphasizing the unpredictability and intelligence of humans. Even among those who had once laughed at Earth, fear began to take root. Commander Thrax addressed the council one final time. "We have underestimated a species that has no fleets, no experience, and yet has forced us to pause. We cannot attack blindly. We cannot assume they are weak. Humans have shown intelligence, creativity, and unity. If we act without care, we awaken a power far beyond our expectations." Silence fell. The council had no ready answer. They were divided, uncertain, and wary. For the first time in history, a young primitive species had reshaped the course of galactic decision-making through strategy, intelligence, and confidence alone. On Earth, life continued. People went to school, worked, and lived their lives largely unaware of the tension their species had caused across the stars. But behind the scenes, humans continued to prepare. Observation, strategy, and communication were refined each day. They had learned that the galaxy underestimated them, and they intended to use that assumption to their advantage. Commander Thrax looked out across the council chamber, a rare thought forming in his mind. "They are not prey," he whispered. "They are a challenge, and they are remarkable." The Galactic Council had been divided, uncertainty had spread, and humanity had proven its strength without violence. The next step would be crucial. Would the Council seek negotiation, observation, or renewed aggression? And how would humans respond to whatever came next? The stage was set for a confrontation of intelligence and will. Humans had disrupted plans, divided the Council, and demonstrated a capability far beyond what anyone expected. The galaxy would soon learn that Earth was no ordinary planet, and that its people were no ordinary species. The stars above seemed calm, but beneath that calm, a quiet revolution had begun. Humanity had shown the first signs of true gallant somewhere. The Galactic Council had reached a rare moment of indecision. Factions argued endlessly, some pushing for aggression, others for caution. Commander Thrax, who had once been certain of an easy conquest, now understood that humans were unpredictable, clever, and united. Every action Earth had taken, from intercepting probes to sending the bold message, had forced the Council to pause. Finally, a decision was made. Earth's representative would be invited to address the Council directly. It was unprecedented. Never before had a young, isolated species been given a voice at the highest level of galactic governance. Some members grumbled, fearing that humans might bluff, manipulate, or disrupt the Council further. Others were curious, eager to see how this tiny species would respond when given such power. Back on Earth, Dr. Amina Patel was chosen to lead the delegation. She was calm, intelligent, and possessed a quiet authority that inspired confidence. Alongside her were linguists, engineers, and diplomats, humans who had spent months preparing for the possibility of interstellar negotiation. The message they were about to deliver was not of submission or threat. It was a demonstration of humanity's intelligence, courage, and unity. The moment arrived. In a council chamber spanning kilometers, holographic displays flickered to life, and humans appeared before representatives of thousands of species. Dr. Patel stood tall, her voice clear and steady. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, "we come not to threaten but to speak. We are aware of your plans and we have prepared accordingly. You may see humans as small, young, and weak. But we are a species capable of learning, adapting, and uniting in ways that defy expectations. If you act against us, you will not find prey. You will find resistance. You will find intelligence, courage, and the will to survive." The chamber was silent. Alien eyes, sensors, and senses turned toward her. For a moment, the council that had once treated humans as insignificant had to reconsider everything they knew. Dr. Patel continued, showing simulations of humanity's preparations. Satellites and networks had intercepted council communications, analyzed fleet movements, and developed responses without direct confrontation. Humans had not attacked, yet they had already neutralized potential threats. Their strength was not in weapons or sheer force, it was in strategy, intelligence, and unity. "You may have fleets, weapons, and experience," she said. "But our advantage is something you cannot measure in fleets or lasers. Our advantage is creativity, collaboration, and adaptability. We do not seek war, but we will defend our home with every resource we possess, and we will not be underestimated." Whispers spread across the council chamber. Even those who had demanded immediate action paused to consider the human words. This species, so young, so seemingly fragile, had already forced doubt, hesitation, and reflection across the galaxy's most powerful assembly. A council member from the crystalline world of Sindari spoke first. "They speak with authority, yet they possess no fleets. They threaten without weapons. How can such a species inspire caution?" Thrax's voice cut through the chamber. "Because they are clever. They have studied us. They have anticipated us. And most importantly, they act together. Their intelligence and unity are weapons in themselves. We have underestimated them for too long." Dr. Patel smiled slightly, sensing the shift in the room. "We do not seek conflict," she said, "but we are prepared for it if necessary. More importantly, we offer partnership. Humans are capable, curious, and creative. We wish to learn, to explore, and to contribute. We can be allies, not enemies. But if attacked, we will respond intelligently and decisively." The council remained quiet. This was unprecedented. No species had ever approached the council so confidently, nor with such clarity. Humans had done more than speak. They had demonstrated that weakness, as measured by fleets or experience, did not define power. Adaptability, courage, and unity did. A representative from the Cytherian planet finally broke the silence. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider our assumptions. This species may be young, but they possess qualities that are rare, even among the oldest civilizations. They are unpredictable, and in that unpredictability lies strength." Thrax nodded. "Exactly. Humans are not prey. They are a species to be respected, studied, and engaged with caution. Any attempt to dominate them may awaken a force beyond our calculations." The council debated in hushed tones, some arguing for continued observation, others suggesting diplomacy, and a few still advocating for attack. But the tide had shifted. Humans had already changed the council's perception. What had begun as a planned invasion had transformed into a moment of reflection, and possibly opportunity. On Earth, Dr. Patel and her team waited for the council's response. They had not demanded submission, nor had they threatened war. They had simply spoken the truth of humanity's strength. The galaxy had heard, and the reaction was undeniable. Finally, a formal response arrived. The council acknowledged Earth's intelligence, preparation, and courage. While some members remained wary, the majority recognized that attacking humans would be reckless. Instead, the council offered cautious engagement. Humans would be observed, studied, and invited into limited diplomatic relations, a chance to prove themselves further. Dr. Patel addressed the council one final time. "We accept your offer of engagement. Humans are ready to learn, to share, and to contribute. But know this, we will not submit to assumptions of weakness. We will continue to prepare, to innovate, and to stand together. Underestimating humanity is a mistake no one should repeat." The chamber fell silent again, this time in respect. For the first time, a young isolated species had altered the course of galactic decision-making. Earth was no longer insignificant. Humans had forced hesitation, doubt, and reflection, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, and unity. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. "Do not underestimate humans," said one voice. "They are not prey. They are resilient, clever, and united. They may be small, but they are extraordinary." Back on Earth, life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but humanity had changed. People continued their daily routines, yet behind the scenes, preparation, observation, and innovation accelerated. Humans had seen their potential, not through the lens of conquest or fear, but through the clarity of their own courage and intelligence. Dr. Patel walked through a crowded city street, watching children play beneath the sun. For a moment, the weight of what had happened in the stars above seemed distant, yet she knew that humanity's first contact with the wider galaxy had changed everything. "They will remember us," Raj said quietly, walking beside her. "Not as weak, not as primitive, but as remarkable." Dr. Patel smiled. "Yes," she said, "humans are remarkable, and we have only just begun to show what we can do when we work together." Meanwhile, in council chambers across distant systems, Commander Thrax observed the humans with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "They are unpredictable," he said, "and in their unpredictability lies power. We have much to learn from them." The Galactic Council had intended to invade Earth, to assert control over a small, isolated species. Instead, they had been forced to pause, reflect, and acknowledge the human strength. Earth had not fired a single shot, yet it had changed the galaxy's perception of what it meant to be strong. The story of humanity had spread quietly, carried in whispers, reports, and transmissions. Across the stars, other civilizations began to take note. This species, small, young, and seemingly fragile, was no longer simply part of the background. Humans were clever, adaptable, and united. They were resilient. They were extraordinary. And so the first chapter of humanity's galactic story came to a close. Humans had faced the possibility of annihilation and responded with intelligence, courage, and unity. They had forced the galaxy to recognize that strength is not always measured in fleets, weapons, or experience, but in the mind, heart, and will of a species. As Earth spun silently beneath the stars, humans continued their lives, unaware that they had already made history. They had shown the galaxy that even the smallest, youngest species could stand tall, be heard, and change the course of civilizations. And somewhere in the depths of the council chambers, the words echoed that would be remembered across the stars. "Do not underestimate humans. They are not prey, they are survivors." Humanity had proven itself, and the galaxy would never be the same again.